Hello, boys and girls. Hi, I bet you don't recognize me, but I have to take off my sunglasses because now that I'm on videos, I am a star. Get it? Star? 2 stars. Okay, so let me take them off. This is Mr. Moby John. So how's everybody doing in the area? Poughkeepsie, of course, because I am a teacher at Poughkeepsie Middle School, and today we're going to continue our series on spring flowers. Okay, about 3 weeks ago we did the early spring flowers. Now we're doing the middle spring flowers. So today we're going to look at this tree, which is called the dogwood. So if you come up close, you can see these flowers. They're all covered with blossoms, thousands of blossoms, and they're called the dogwood. The name of the tree is called dogwood. That is its common name. As you can see, to identify the dogwood, the flowers appear first, and the leaves appear after the flowers have since faded. Okay? If you look very closely, these bracts are functioning as petals, and each flower has 1, 2, 3, 4 petals. 4 petals to each flower. Okay? The dogwood is a common indigenous tree of the Northeast, found in the understory of woodlands. Except this is out in the open because we have planted this in a artificial habitat, nearly artificial. In the wild, it grows as an understory tree. Understory means below the big trees. Okay? So the dogwood doesn't grow that large. It does live about 40 or 50 years, maybe even longer. It all depends. And it doesn't grow very fast. It's a very slow growing tree, the dogwood. Very small, slow growing tree. Any questions on the dogwood? Good. Let's move on to our second tree. Hello, boys and girls. Our next tree, as you can see, has purplish flowers on it. Thousands of purplish flowers. The flowers come out before the leaves. This is called the redbud, sometimes referred to as a Judas tree, because it was thought that Judas, after betraying Christ, hung himself from such a tree. And it is commonly called, another common name of the tree is called the redbud. Again, it is an understory tree. It doesn't get to be very large, but it does have thousands of these purplish flowers. Okay? And flowers before the leaves again. So if you ever see a tree that's covered with purplish flowers around May, it is called the redbud. This tree, our third tree, is from Japan. And this tree is called the Quazon Japanese cherry. Okay? If you come very close to it, you'll see that these flowers come out with the leaves, and they look like little rose blossoms. A flower that has many, many petals on it. Okay? This was originally from Japan, now extensively planted in the Americas, in the Northeast. You'll find them as a street tree. Again, it's called Quazon Japanese cherry, named after the city that it originated from. Okay? Again, not to be a very big tree. It is not a native tree, nor is it an invasive tree. But it is an ornamental tree. It doesn't bear cherries. It just has infertile blossoms. What do I mean by infertile? These blossoms do not develop into seeds. Okay? Their flowers don't generate seed capsules. Okay? So it's called infertile or sterile flowers. And it gets to be a medium-sized tree. This tree is a little bit sickly because it's been, there is some rot here if you look closely. There is some decay going on here, but one thing this tree has is the will to survive. And many trees do have that will to survive. Our fourth tree is the crabapple. They call it the crabapple because these flowers do produce fruit. Often the fruit is very small and it's not used as a food source for humans. It is used as a food source for wildlife, but not for humans. You can recognize the crabapple because it has these many, many blossoms. So it is an ornamental tree planted extensively only for its spring blossoms. I'm standing beneath an apple tree, a very old apple tree. If you look closely, it's apple blossom time, and the tree is covered with apple blossoms. And these will produce fruit, apples, and we do harvest them, and those that are left, the deer eat. So the genus of the tree, the scientific name is Malus. There are many subspecies of Malus, but this is the common apple. And as you can see, the leaves and the blossoms do come out together. Okay? As an apple tree ages, it doesn't bear as much quality fruit, and often in apple farms, apple orchards, they do cut them down and they do plant younger trees to replace the older ones. But we still use this tree, although it doesn't produce very good apples because it's not young anymore. It does produce apples, and it is a seed source for newer varieties because these blossoms and the seeds can start new seedling apples, which I have often dug up and planted. Okay, so again, this is the apple tree. The scientific name is Malus, M-A-L-U-S. Hello, boys and girls. I'm standing beneath a maple tree. This special maple tree, again, it's planted for ornamental use. The reason why it's planted, the flowers are pretty inconspicuous. What do I mean by inconspicuous? You don't plant them for their flowers. These are planted because their leaves are red. And we call this the red maple. It is called the red maple. It is an offshoot of the Norway maple, and it's got very big, simple, I would say a simple leaf, okay? And you recognize the maple because it has got these red leaves. It is a medium-sized tree, and it does live to be a fairly old age. It lives many years, say about 50 to 100 years. Next bush is going to be called the Azalea. Again, this is planted in the city, mostly in the city, along by the foundations of homes because it kind of hides the foundation. This is growing up in the Catskills. Comes in many different colors, the flowers. This happens to be coming in red, and it's called the Azalea. It gets to be a bush, not a tree. Stays as a bush. Usually it's an evergreen, okay? Many of our azaleas keep their leaves through the winter. This is called an Ajuga, A-J-U-G-A. Again, this is not a native plant. It grows, it does compete with the grass. It doesn't take over, so it's not an invasive plant, but some people don't like it on their lawns because most people like, not most people, but quite a few people like their lawns just having grass on it. I like my lawn with a mixture of wildflowers and grass. Again, this comes from Japan, and it does grow to a certain height and produces spring blossoms, usually purple or bluish in color. If you come really closely, you could see that each flower has 1 or 2 petals. I think it does have 1 big petal on a panicle. So I'll pick one flower for you. Look very closely. I'm going to ask my producer, how many petals do you see? Is it 1 big petal?
Yes.
Yes. So my producer says it's 1 big petal. Again, it grows along with the grass, and it's called Ajuga, and it is from, I believe it's from Japan. So another Asian plant. We've imported a lot of different plants from Asia to the Americas. Our last plant for today is the Viola. It's called the Viola. If you look very closely, most of these violas, they do have different petal colors to them, but most of the time they come in this blue color. Often they're also called violets or viola. So the scientific name I believe is called viola. The common name is called violets. So I'm going to pick a flower from one violet, and as you can see, there are about 2, 4, 5 petals to each violet. Let's see if I'm accurate with that, because to identify flowers of a species, they usually have the same number of petals for each flower. It does not change. So this one also has 2, 4, 5. So all violets, or the violets that we have here, have 5 petals to a flower. And again, I don't know if they are indigenous or an immigrant from another country, but they are very friendly plants. They generally are not invasive. I don't consider these plants to be invasive. If you look at the leaf of a violet, it looks like a heart. So the leaf is a simple leaf, heart-shaped leaves. It comes up every year, so you would call these type of plants that return year after year a perennial. Perennial means it comes up every year, and it is herbaceous. What do I mean by herbaceous? It does not have woody stems. It has vegetative stems or herb-like stems, green stems, and therefore we use the term herbaceous to characterize these type of plants. And this is our last plant for today. Thank you, boys and girls.